Welcome to Science Views from the Valley. I'm your host, Dr. Kelly Kassan. Science Views from the Valley is a monthly program that will explore interesting science topics and how they relate to the San Luis Valley and the Upper Rio Grande region. Good morning and welcome to my February show. February is famous for Valentine's Day, when couples worldwide celebrate love. But humans are not the only animals that exhibit monogamy. This inspired me to do a show on genetic monogamy, where animals truly mate for life. Monogamy comes in two forms among the animal kingdom, genetic and social. Genetic monogamy is when complete fidelity to the partner is exhibited. The offspring are the genetic offspring of both parents. Social monogamy is when cohabitation between the pair bond and parental care of the offspring is exhibited, but sexual fidelity is often absent. For example, many bird species exhibit biparental care of the offspring, leading to the idea that birds were highly monogamous. But when the development of molecular biology allowed for more accurate paternity testing, we discovered that birds are more likely to practice social monogamy. A pair of birds work together to care for the offspring, but the offspring are often not the genetic offspring of the male. Genetic monogamy can be serial, meaning that a pair will bond for one season and both parents will raise offspring that are genetically related to them, but these partners may choose a different mate in the following season. A few will mate for life, returning to the same mate every year until one of the pair dies. This type of monogamy is rare. Only about 3 to 9% of all species mate for life. Many of these species are mammals and birds. Today, I would like to discuss a few of these species that practice true genetic monogamy and some of the reasons why we think they do so. The first monogamous species I would like to discuss is the familiar species to the San Luis Valley, the sandhill cranes. The monogamy of sandhill cranes may surprise you, considering the hundreds that often flock together in the fields to feed. When they are in the San Luis Valley, they form large groups so they can protect each other while they are feeding. This allows them to feed long enough to gain enough energy to complete their migration to Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. The sandhill cranes will begin pairing up during this migration, so you may be able to witness this while watching the sandhill cranes while they are in the San Luis Valley. Both the male and female birds will perform elaborate dancing displays that include head pumping, bows, jumping, and leaps into the air. The dancing pair will also toss sticks in grass and do wing stretches and wing flapping. These dances are not only important for courtship, they also increase motor skill development in the cranes and aid in defensive strategies against predators. Once mated, most sandhill cranes' pair bonds will last a lifetime. Recent studies of the greater sandhill crane found that only 14% of pair bonds will dissolve due to divorce. Most of these divorces are due to a failure to rear young. Genetic studies of the offspring find that infidelity of the female is very rare. The reason for genetic monogamy between the mated pair is the need for not only extensive parental care of the young, but also to maintain territories that increase their reproductive success. Defended territories provide ample food for the parents and their offspring. Loss of territory would reduce the survivorship of the offspring. Recent studies show that mate loss negatively impacts the female more than the male. Males that have lost a mate through death or divorce are able to continue to defend their territories nearly 90% of the time. but widowed females are only able to defend their territories 40% of the time. In most cases, these successful females were able to defend their territory by pairing up with a younger, inexperienced male that had no territory. Another monogamous species that we see here in the San Luis Valley is the Canada goose, at least once they reach the age of 4. Though Canada geese younger than 4 are known to form pair bonds, these bonds are unstable with documented infidelity. But once a mature pair has formed a bond, they will remain mated for life with a very low divorce rate. Canada geese are rather picky about their mates, with large individuals preferring to bond with equally large mates and smaller birds preferring smaller mates. The courtship behavior of the Canada goose is initiated by the male, who begins to bob his neck up and down. The female, if she is attracted, will bob her neck in unison. Sometimes another male will attempt to intrude on this courtship display, which will cause the males to fight until one of the males gives up. The winning male will then display his prowess to the female by lifting his tail while raising his head high, rolling his neck from side to side, hissing and honking. If no male interferes with the courtship, sometimes the courting male will attack an imaginary rival, displaying his ability to defend his future family. The female chooses her mate based on his neck-bobbing display and how well he demonstrates that he can protect her. The reasons for monogamy among Canada geese is similar to that of the sandhill crane. The offspring require extensive parental care and protection. One study revealed that up to 75% of all Canada geese goslings is lost to predation. Canada geese are also very territorial and fight to retain their feeding grounds. I often notice flocks of Canada geese at the Blanca Vista Dog Park north of town. This spring, try observing the geese and see if you notice any of the behaviors I'm describing today. The evolution of monogamy in a species is not completely due to biparental care and territoriality. Sometimes it is due to the low availability of females. All 20 of the elephant shrew species, for example, are monogamous. The males, however, do not provide parental care. Observations of elephant shrews indicate that they don't even live together or exhibit any type of affectionate behavior. So why are elephant shrews monogamous? One hypothesis is that the male, who has a low probability of finding another female in their harsh desert environment, guards its mate to ensure that he will be able to reproduce. The female, who has an equally low chance of finding another mate, accepts the male's jealous guarding, though she will mate with another male if the guarding male disappears. This indicates that elephant shrews are not obligated to be monogamous. The reason may be due to the costs of mate guarding. A recent study found that male elephant shrews lose 5% of their body weight while guarding a female. Due to these costs, it is unlikely a male could defend a territory large enough to contain 2 females. So though a male would benefit by having more offspring if he mated with 2 or more females, the risks greatly outweigh the benefits. Black vultures probably have the best family values of any bird species. Not only are black vultures monogamous, paternity testing revealed that they have almost no infidelity. Black vultures, like many birds, court females by performing dances. Several males will circle a female, holding their wings partially open, strut, and extend and bob their heads. The males will also perform aerial displays, chasing and diving towards the female. Once mated, the pair will not only remain with each other all year, but they will continue to stay together for many years. Their offspring also maintain strong social bonds with their parents throughout their lives. When you see a flock of black vultures, all of them are related to each other. These vultures will aggressively defend their group and their territory against non-relatives. Unlike other monogamous species that are monogamous due to the high maintenance of the offspring or low availability of potential mates, black vultures appear to be monogamous due to their social culture. Observations of black vultures found that philandering individuals are attacked not only by his mate, but by the entire social group. A dwarf antelope species in Africa, called KRZA, also practices strict monogamy. This tiny ungulate, weighing no more than 13 pounds, lives in a desert habitat. Like the elephant shrew, this tiny antelope was believed to exhibit facultative monogamy due to the low availability of females in this harsh environment. But a behavioral study conducted in 1996 discovered that even when provided with extra food, this antelope species does not increase their territories. Though some males can defend territories and resources to support more than one female, most do not. The few polygynous males that were observed were polygynous only because another female joined the pair. Males also do not provide parental care to the offspring, another common reason why an animal species can become monogamous. So why is this tiny antelope monogamous when it lacks the ecological and behavioral pressures that lead to monogamy? The leading hypothesis is that the male antelope is monogamous due to mate guarding. A researcher in 1996 suggested that the mate guarding was not used to prevent males from stealing the female away, but to prevent the female from wandering away. But a follow-up study a year later indicated that most males only guard their females 64% of the time. Thus, females had the freedom to leave if they chose to do so. Female dictycs are also strongly territorial, using scent marking to designate the boundaries of their territory and chasing away any intruders. But once mated, the male dictyc will overmark the female's scent markings with his own scent, possibly concealing the presence of a reproductive female in the territory. This behavior requires the male to patrol the boundaries of his territory daily. Thus, the cost of maintaining his territory against other males in a harsh desert environment may exceed the reproductive benefits of having more than one mate. This would explain why the males are monogamous. But why are the females monogamous? The leading theory is that females accept monogamy to prevent territorial conflicts that would possibly injure themselves or their offspring. Most rodents are polygamous, but the California deer mouse is an exception. This rodent species, as the name suggests, lives mainly in California. Previous studies discovered that this species has biparental care and that the presence of the father has positive impacts on the growth, physical, and mental development of the offspring. Paternity analysis of the offspring found that they are almost exclusively the offspring of the parents caring for them. The California deer mouse couple show affectionate behavior, chirping and singing to each other during their cohabitation. This partnership lasts until one of the partners dies. Lab experiments on California deer mice found that most pairs will remain faithful to each other even when the opportunity to cheat was presented to them. Interestingly, the male mouse was more likely to resist temptation than the female mouse. Less than 2% of the male mice would mate with an unfamiliar mouse, while nearly 20% of female deer mice would mate with an unfamiliar male. A researcher at the University of Wisconsin-Madison tested the strength of the pair bond further by separating both males and females of a pair bond. Some males were placed with unfamiliar females. Some females were placed with unfamiliar males. Other males and females were separated but lived alone. The results of this experiment indicated that when a partner who was living with an unfamiliar mouse for 1 week was returned to his original mate, the mate would respond with aggressive barks. But when the males or females that lived alone were returned to their original mate, no aggressive vocalizations were seen. But though presumed infidelity resulted in aggressive behavior by the mate, most California deer mice are apparently quite forgiving. Eventually, the aggressive vocalizations between the pair would return to the soft chirps and songs, and the pair would once again work together to raise their offspring. Another monogamous bird is the black-browed albatross. The black-browed albatross is a large seabird that live on the open seas south of the equator. Their courtship behavior is relatively quiet and low-key compared to other birds. Their courtship behavior consists mainly of beak touching and grooming each other. The black-browed albatross is also biparental, with the males and females taking turns to incubate the eggs and feeding the chicks. The effectiveness of the biparental care is crucial, since the black-browed albatross only lays 1 egg per year. Cheating is extremely rare in this species. Genetic analysis of the offspring found that less than 10% of the young are the result of infidelity. Divorces between a mated pair was also rare, and like other monogamous species, divorces were usually the result of poor reproduction. The reason for monogamy appears to be their feeding habits. Albatross must fly great distances to gather enough food, which consists of fish that come to the surface and crustaceans. The monogamous relationship facilitates the building of trust, communication, and coordination, allowing for a better chance of survival for the single chick. But climate change, particularly the increasing water temperatures, appears to be causing more stress on this monogamous species. Warmer seawater temperatures means it will take longer for the albatross to find their preferred food. Crustaceans prefer cool temperatures, so they will migrate to cooler regions to stay healthy. Many marine fish also prefer cooler water temperatures, causing them to dive deeper or migrate to cooler waters. Since it takes the albatross longer to hunt and feed, they are not returning in time to the breeding grounds to reproduce. When the male does not return in time, the female will then move on to another mate in order to produce offspring that year. Another bird that is monogamous and has a low reproductive rate is the puffin, a colorful species of auk that lives on the open seas, much like the albatross. Puffins have a very strong nest fidelity, meaning they return to the same nesting site each year. During the breeding season, the puffin lays a single egg. During the winter, however, puffins spend their time on the open seas foraging for food. For many years, it was unclear if this monogamous bird stayed together after the chicks had fledged. A 2017 study answered that question by placing many tracking devices on the birds and tracking their migrations during the breeding and wintering seasons. The study discovered that most puffin pairs remained together in the winter and synchronized their return to the nesting sites. The study also found that puffins that remained together during the winter mated earlier, increasing the odds that their chicks would survive. The hornbill, a large, distinctive-looking bird that lives on the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia, is also monogamous. These birds have large, brightly colored bills that resemble horns, hence their name. The bills are so large that the great hornbill has fused cervical vertebrae to help the bird hold up its heavy head. These birds are long-lived, living up to 50 years in the wild, and are mostly monogamous. Their courtship behavior is elaborate and can last weeks. The male chases the female of his dreams and, appropriately enough for Valentine's Day, gifts her with food, flower petals, or tree bark. After mating, the female enters a tree cavity and seals herself in with soils and pebbles that have been brought to her by the male. The female will then completely molt her feathers, lay eggs, and incubates them. Thus, the female is entirely dependent on the male for survival during this period. The male provides the food to both the female and the chicks, which is costly in terms of energy and predation. If the male dies or disappears, the female and the chicks will also die. This unusual reproductive behavior may explain why genetic monogamy is seen in hornbill species. Females will not risk infidelity because the male could withdraw parental care. Males would not risk mating with other females due to the high cost of keeping his mate and offspring alive, and his mistress and potential chicks would not survive due to the lack of male care. Monogamy in this system would be the most cost-effective means of successful reproduction. Indeed, genetic analysis of the chicks indicated that infidelity is very low, if not non-existent, in hornbills. All offspring that were tested were the offspring of the male parent caring for them. Shingleback lizards are possibly the only monogamous reptile species. These unusual Australian lizards are also known as the blue-tongued skink because of their blue tongues. The blue tongue serves as a startle display to predators, which gives the skink time to escape. The males do not provide parental care, yet even after mating, the pair will remain together after the breeding season and will return to each other each year. The pair bond is so strong that some shingleback males are known to guard their mates even if their mate has been killed. Some mates have been observed brooding for their dead partner. One hypothesis for this species monogamy is enhanced vigilance. Males stand guard over the female while she feeds and warns her when a predator is approaching. Another hypothesis, developed from a 31-year study of the shingleback lizard, suggests that mate familiarity is the primary reason for the monogamous behavior. The study observed that mates that were familiar with each other mated earlier than pairs that were not familiar with each other, which allowed for a greater reproductive success. A New World monkey called the titi is one of the few monogamous primates. New World monkeys are different from Old World monkeys in part by the presence of a prehensile tail, which the Old World monkeys lack. Titi monkeys reinforce their pair bond by huddling together, holding hands, grooming each other, and intertwining their tails while cuddling. Male titi monkeys exhibit distress when separated and jealousy when their mate is near another male. When the male partner is jealous of his mate's attention to another male, he will arch his back and lash its tail back and forth in agitation. Some male titi monkeys will physically constrain their partner from interacting with another male. Blood tests indicated that testosterone and cortisol, the stress hormone, is much higher in males that are exhibiting jealousy. Females also exhibit similar jealous behaviors when the male is paying attention to another female, but often do so in a less intense manner than the male. The reason for the jealousy may be due to the male titi's high parental investment. Males are heavily involved in caring for their offspring. Males have been observed carrying their young, bringing them to their mothers for nursing. Male titis also spend more time grooming and playing with their offspring, and often share their food with them, more so than the mother. Another well-known monogamous species is the prairie vole. Prairie voles are small rodents that live in central North America. Monogamy is not well documented in rodents, but most prairie voles will form strong pair bonds with their mates. Like the titi monkey, prairie voles reinforce their pair bond by huddling and grooming each other. They share nest building and parental care. Previous studies of the prairie vole's monogamy found that the neurotransmitters oxytocin and vasopressin play a major role in the development of the pair bond. When promiscuous montane voles, a different species from the prairie vole, are given extra doses of these neurotransmitters, they also begin to exhibit monogamous behavior. This leads to the idea that monogamous or polygamous behaviors are somewhat controlled by genes, particularly those that code for receptor proteins that respond to oxytocin and vasopressin. One of the most unusual monogamous relationships is seen in the glass sponge shrimp. These shrimp enter a glass sponge species called the Venus flower basket while they are still juveniles, always in a male-female pairing. The glass sponge and the shrimp continue to grow to the point where the shrimp can no longer escape the sponge. Only their tiny offspring can fit through the small holes of the sponge. The shrimp pair will continue to live inside the sponge, cleaning the sponge to keep it healthy. The sponge returns the favor by protecting the shrimp and providing food to the shrimp through its waste. In Japan, finding a glass sponge with the skeletons of the shrimp pair inside is a symbol of undying love and is presented as wedding gifts. I hope you enjoyed my talk on monogamous animals today. My next show will be on March 24th, and in honor of National Irish American Month, I will discuss the wildlife of Ireland. If you would like to hear a particular topic, contact me at spiderwomankrza@gmail.com. If you would like to hear one of my previous shows, they are archived on YouTube on the channel Science Views from the Valley, Alamosa, CO. I would like to thank the KRZA staff for their help in broadcasting this show, and to all of my Science Views from the Valley listeners. Have a good day.